We just heard from Brock Purdy for the first time since the season ended for the San Francisco 49ers in a great podcast. And he said a couple things that really stood out. So I want to react to those. And the biggest point really coming from what I believe is going to be a big time explosion with him and Ricky Pearsall and what their season could actually be looking like next year with a full off season, a bunch of time to prepare and continue to work. And I really do think this could be a big season for both of them. But we're also going to talk about the other things that he mentioned. He spoke on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy spoke on Brock Purdy. No, Brock Purdy spoke on Mac Jones. That edition, he spoke about multiple things from the beginning of his career. So I want to talk about all of them right now, kind of give you my reaction, and let's get into it all right now. But you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in a chat, smash that like button, and let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, SDS? Good to have you guys all in the building. Hopefully you're doing well on this Thursday. But yes, I want to talk about the Brock Purdy interview that dropped. And really one of the biggest takeaways was this right here. I think that Ricky Pearsall, and Brock Purdy are about to have a really big season next year, and it got me really hyped about it. It got me really excited. I know this year's been a weird year so far. Deebo Samuel gets traded to Washington. We're amidst all the lovely trade rumors about Brandon Ayuk that I know all of you love hearing me talk about, and it's just kind of like it's kind of a little Debbie Downer kind of feeling to the offseason a little bit. But to me, hearing Brock QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers go on this podcast and just kind of hear him just talk about his career up until this point, talk about some players. I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And again, I want to focus on what he said about Ricky Pearsall. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to play a little clip for you so you can hear it directly. But we already saw this come together a little bit last year. I think back to the Detroit Lions game where they were going crazy together, and Ricky was going off. It was definitely his breakout game. So I want to share with you what Brock said, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little further. So here is Brock explaining why he loves Ricky Pearsall. And again, you guys already know what to do. If you have any audio issues, let me know in the chat and we'll figure that out. But here we go.
Big deal, right? Like you just said, 40% of the time you really can't see. Yep. So there's a high level of trust that guy is going to be exactly where he is going to be. Because if he's not, nobody's going to talk about him. 100%. They're going to talk about your interception, right? Talk about how tough it is to develop that and what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's reps on reps on reps, practice day in and day out. Off-season times where you're getting together with your receivers and then going out in the field and running it over and over and over again, like during the season. That's why I love this rookie last year, Ricky Pearsall, receiver from Florida. Like this dude went through so much adversity early on, but anytime he was out in the field with us at practice, he'd come up to me and just wouldn't shut up. Brock, dude, I'm going to take this many steps here, breakout. You can trust me on the side. Well, I love that. For me, it's, dude, in the heat of the moment, I need a guy that I can trust. And this guy wants to get on the same page with me. So after practice, he's running routes. I'm throwing to him. And then in the game, boom, we're hitting it. That whole third down and converting, like that's what it takes time and time again. And that was just a little example, but outside of that, like the offensive lineman guys up front, like it's getting in the huddle, not stuttering and acting afraid, but like ripping off plays, looking them in the eye, being confident, rep after rep after rep, so that in the heat of the battle, man, you can you can get it done.
Imagine that trust. I think about that all the time. Like, there's how many pounds in the front seven of a defense coming at you?
Yeah.
You think you've identified the right protection? Like, maybe they may be +1 over there. Like, I'm relying on my guy to beat their guy. If not, that 295 pounds is coming after me, and I've got to throw a ball in the right spot that I can't quite see. It's a pretty hard game.
Third down and
Man, I loved it. It got me hyped. It got me hyped up. I'm not going to lie. This offseason has been a pretty typical 49ers offseason, which means, there's a lot of stuff that comes along with it. But this got me back thinking about football, got me back to thinking about what these guys could do from what they were able to do in year 1 to year 2. And again, I love what Brock had to say. I didn't post the full clip, but the first part of it, he's talking about how he can really only see 60% of the field when he's in the pocket trying to throw behind those offensive linemen because, they're all 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and above. And they're running stunts up front. Defensive linemen are looping and they're throwing games. You've got linebackers blitzing. You've got all these moving parts in front of you. And you have to be able to be so honed in and on the same page with your wide receiver that all this stuff can be happening in front of you, but you know exactly where he's going to be. And this clip from last year's game just really reminded me of what he just spoke about. So as you can see in the image, that ball is already out of Brock Purdy's hand. And with the arrow on Ricky Pearsall, he's not even out of his break. He's still working off the top of his route, and that ball is already gone. So this is actually a functional example of what Brock just spoke about, showing in the pocket starting to collapse, big offensive linemen and defensive linemen all around him, and he's got to let this thing rip. And he's doing it on timing and anticipating that his receiver is going to be where he knows he's going to be. And then this is where we got the phenomenal one-handed catch from Ricky Pearsall. But these types of things to me get me excited about kind of the future heading into next year and what this could ultimately look like. Crowd noise for the ambiance here. Oh yeah, let that thing out. Beautiful one-handed catch. Also, I like the low-key body language from Brock after this. A little shrug thing. I don't know if that's him adjusting something or if that's him like, yeah, that's something coming out of my phone. But regardless of it, it just shows the anticipation. It shows them being on the same page, and I love it. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. So I really do think that this is going to be a good year for Ricky, because even considering the fact that Ricky Pearsall got shot in training camp after missing all of preseason, he still was able to be a productive wide receiver last year for the San Francisco 49ers, to the point where he was able to produce. He put up 400 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns on 31 receptions, and he only played in 11 games. In those first couple games, he was very seldomly used, and he still put up pretty decent production. So I am really expecting Ricky Pearsall to take a big jump. Obviously, Juwan Jennings had his breakout campaign last year, and if you can get Brandon Ayuk healthy, like we're gonna assume Brandon Ayuk's going to be on the roster this year. If and when Brandon Ayuk gets healthy, gets back into the lineup, and you have these 3 guys, along with Jacob Cowing, along with Demarcus Robinson, along with Isaiah Hodgins, Tariq Owens, Russell Gage, Trent Taylor, and who knows who they're going to draft. We have no idea. I halfway expect them to go after a wide receiver in the draft. So the weapons right now for the San Francisco 49ers, they're not looking too bad. They're really not. And they could even add more to that, like I said, throughout this offseason. So it was a nice reminder, kind of get out the weeds, of kind of, the typical offseason flow surrounding the San Francisco 49ers, kind of re-envision like, okay, we have a first round rookie that we drafted last year in Ricky Pearsall, and he only scratched the surface of what he's capable of. And it's phenomenal to hear that Ricky and Brock are already building that rapport. I mean, the fact he's like, I love this guy. I love that he wants to be where I want him to be. And, I think that's huge for a quarterback. So when you can build that rapport, man, that translates into big plays. It translates into things happening on the field that are positive, and that's a good thing for the San Francisco 49ers. So I love it. And I guess I want to talk about another thing in his podcast. When Mac Jones was signed, I think, I didn't really know how to feel about it, because obviously he's coming in to be the backup. He's being paid like a backup and all of those things. But again, we know Brock is going through the negotiation and all that stuff. I was like, could this get weird? Could this get, I don't know. Could there be some situation, a competition or whatever? Not that competition's a bad thing. You got guys like Mike Florio saying, oh, Mac Jones is coming in here to take Brock Purdy's job. And honestly, when you listen to Brock talk about Mac Jones, he's like, oh, I love that guy. Because we heard from Mac on his interview with I think it was on the 49ers page, where he was talking about how he actually hosted Brock Purdy while at Alabama on his recruiting trip. So that's where their first kind of relationship started. And then since they've both been in the NFL, they actually train together in the offseason. So they all train in Florida. Caleb Williams trains there. I believe Anthony Richardson also trains there. Nathan Peterman, the GOAT, also I think trains there along with some other quarterbacks. So there's a little group of NFL quarterbacks that train together. And you could tell just by the way Brock was talking about him, like he genuinely likes Mac Jones. So I'm like, okay, I feel better about that. Because, you don't want an awkward room. You don't want like a super weird situation or anything. And it doesn't appear it's going to be that way. It sounds like Brock loves Mac. And so I think that with Brock and Mac in the building, who knows? Maybe they could push each other. I don't think anyone, I see it in the chat, Mac Jones isn't taking anyone's job. I don't think 49er fans really think that Mac is capable of that, but I think obviously with Brock working with him, he knows exactly what he's capable of. So I think that builds camaraderie within the room, and I think I don't think that's a bad thing. So I'm glad that Brock likes Mac Jones. I think, I think it would be a little bit more tense maybe if he didn't, considering the circumstances. But I'm glad to hear that. I'm curious, did you guys hear what he said about like when he knew he was going to play? He basically said that, going through training camp, he was battling. It was Trey's job. So Trey was going to be the starter. He was battling with Sudfeld. And based on what he was saying, he's like, based on what I was doing in camp, like I knew I could play based on what we're doing here. Obviously, one of the bigger surprises of training camp, I remember covering that training camp. And it is also one of the biggest learning lessons for me personally, as someone who likes to evaluate the players at training camp, because I had got it in my head that Nate Sudfeld, I think he was paid either $2 to $3 million guaranteed to be the backup to Trey Lance. I was like, oh yeah, it's it's Nate Sudfeld's job. They're only going to carry 2 quarterbacks. It's like, they're not going to keep Mr. Irrelevant. I didn't even allow myself to even think of like the potential chances. So like whenever Brock, and it's not like Brock played a ton, but whenever Brock came in, I wasn't evaluating Brock. My eyes went somewhere else. I went to go watch an O lineman, a D lineman, some cornerbacks, wide receivers. I'm like, he's going to be a practice squad guy. It's fine. We're going to let him go. And he's going to be, I really didn't pay attention. I didn't evaluate him. Because I had just got it in my head that it was going to be Trey Lance, Nate Sudfeld. And to, I think, a lot of our surprise, the 49ers cut Nate Sudfeld. This is when Jimmy Garoppolo was on the side field. I don't know if you guys remember this. This is when the whole circus spectacle of Jimmy Garoppolo, who's waiting to get traded. So he was under contract, but wasn't practicing. So he's off to the side field. Fans are taking video of him. He's taking pictures with fans. They're yelling Jimmy's name. Oh, it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And so they cut Sudfeld. They re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo. They restructure his contract. They bring him back. And the quarterback room, and they keep Brock. And so they kept 3, and it's Trey, Jimmy, and Brock. So that was wild. That was a wild scenario. And then obviously week 2 against Seattle, Trey Lance goes down. And Brock said, he's like, when Trey went down and I knew Jimmy Garoppolo was going to start, that he knew he was going to have a chance to play that year. He just didn't know when that was going to be. I wish there was a follow-up question to that. I wish they would have said, what gave you that indication? Like, why did you feel that? Because I feel like there might be a little bit of tea behind that. Not that Brock would come out and say any of that, but like, I'm wondering if he's like, well, based on Jimmy's current standing with Kyle and the organization, that I knew my time was going to come. I just didn't know when it was going to be. So I wanted to know a little bit more of what the indication that he had that he was going to play that year. Just didn't know when. But it's funny. I think about it because, I talk about it all the time. I love playing dynasty fantasy football because I can build my own rosters. It's roster construction based. It's teams that you draft from the startup and you keep for years and years, and you just keep adding through trades and rookie drafts and all that stuff. So I love building my own rosters and stuff like that. So when Jimmy Garoppolo became the starter, I grabbed up Brock Purdy everywhere I could. He was on waivers, so I snatched him up because my thought process was Jimmy Garoppolo is eventually going to be hurt. Like, we've seen so much of Jimmy Garoppolo that we know he's going to get hurt. He's going to get injured somehow, some way. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to snatch up Brock Purdy wherever I can, and wound up being a phenomenal decision for a lot of my leagues where Brock is I play a lot of super flex leagues, so 2 quarterback leagues. So he's my second quarterback in a lot of my leagues right now because of that. But I'm curious, like, did he think that too? Did he think, well, Jimmy Garoppolo has an injury history, maybe that's going to be it, or maybe Jimmy's going to piss Kyle Shanahan off so much that I'm eventually going to get a shot? I have no idea. But I was in the stadium for Brock Purdy's first time playing, and that was against the Chiefs, and that was a terrible game, which stinks because that was arguably one of the most electric pre-game atmospheres at Levi's Stadium I've felt in a long time. because that was the week that the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey. He arrived on a Friday. He worked with Brock on the playbook, I think on that Friday, Saturday. And then Christian McCaffrey started on that Sunday. It was insane. And he played pretty decently well. But they also had the Tony Montana. They had the 2012 49ers team there. So you had Jim Harbaugh there. You had like your Deshaun Goldsons and your Patrick Willises and your Frank Gores. They had all those guys. They had, the Tony Montana squad. They played Tony Montana on the opening kickoff, and you could see the 2012 49ers roster going crazy on the sideline. It was one of the most electric pregame atmospheres. And that was also that Joe Montana was in the building. I mean, it was like, oh wow, this is fun until the game started, and then it wasn't fun. It wasn't bad. I think if you guys remember that game, it was pretty close until halftime, and then it got out of control. I think Jimmy had a safety, and it turned into a nightmare. That was the Mecole Hardman 3 end-around touchdown game. Oh, that was brutal. But that was also the game that Brock first played in the NFL, and I remember it. I remember him coming out here and the ball zipping out of his hand. I'm like, who is this guy? It's like Brock. He ended up throwing an interception because he threw one a little high at the end, but he was kind of dinking and dunking his way down the field. And I was like, oh, he's got some little juice to him. I was like, oh, I didn't know what juice that was going to be. And then obviously comes in against the Dolphins, and the rest is history, literally. So it's just kind of funny to hear him kind of go back and talk about that, because it puts me in that mindset. It puts me in that frame of reference. It makes me go back. And it's crazy to think about, because what are we approaching? Was that 4 years ago? Was that 3 years ago? It's crazy. It's crazy how time flies. And how everything came about, because I remember talking about on these streams with you guys, I was like, this is like the best we've ever seen Jimmy Garoppolo play. And then Brock Purdy, he gets hurt, breaks his foot, and Brock Purdy comes in and is like, I don't think we ever thought of Jimmy Garoppolo again after that, because Brock Purdy literally made us forget about him. He played so well from that point out. It was really crazy to see. He also talked about, the lead, through that season, to tearing his UCL in the first drive against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, and that kind of rough situation. But again, it's so cool to hear him. So cool to hear him just talk about everything. He's so grounded in his faith. He's so grounded in his confidence in himself and belief, that he's dude. I have a hard time, like, if you really try to understand who Brock is, like, and understand that he is the ultimate underdog, the guy that's always been counted out, the guy that's always been rooted against, the guy that's always been told he's not good enough. I gravitate to those kinds of players, because there's nothing that I love more when those types of players make those people eat their words. Like, I love it. I think it's why I like Brock so much, because he is an underdog. He is undersized. His arm has been surgically repaired. But that, to me, is more reason to stand and support Brock, because, he's wired the right way, and he doesn't have all the advantages of the Josh Allens, of the Lamar Jacksons, of the Patrick Mahomes. He has to win his way. He has to win in a different way than what these other guys do, who are just so physically gifted. And I find it hard to like not respect that. Like I have a hard time looking at players like that who have physical disadvantages, but are still doing more with their opportunities than other guys who have all the physical tools in the world. So I think I'm wired differently. I'm wired to root for the underdog. I'm wired to like get behind the guys that are getting trashed in the media, people talking bad about them. If I truly believe that these guys have any semblance of uh I guess talent, and I do believe that they are capable of being successful, I'm absolutely going to root for them. I'm absolutely going to support them because you got too many front runners out here, man. You got too many people are just like, "Oh, well he's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson, so he can't be a good quarterback." And it's just like, that's fine. Like that's fine if that's what you believe and that's what you want to stand on. Like I get it. But I think the fact that he's only 25 years old, just turned 25 years old. I, the only thing that I think might concern me about Brock right now is, maybe some of the injuries he's suffered. That's really about it. Other than that, like I feel pretty comfortable with Brock and who he is and what he is. So I'm hopeful that something gets done. We 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 had a report come out yesterday from Jordan Schultz effectively saying pretty much everything that we've already heard. Brock's expected to get paid between 50 to 55 or potentially more. Earth shattering. And also, the 49ers are in active negotiations. We knew that. So it is what it is. Nothing is imminent. We knew that. They want to get Brock paid before the 2025 season. We knew that. So we'll see. We'll see. I agree. I think this is worthy of critique. I think it was one of the first things that I noticed where I could like actually like critique his play was like, man, he can't he I don't know if it's he can't or he struggles because I remember I think the first time I noticed it was in the divisional round playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks. It was the first drive of the game. I think it was a play to the left. He was trying to throw a ball to Deebo Samuel, and it had been raining a little bit before that game, and the ball just got away from him. And that was his rookie year. And that was the first time I noticed it. I was like, oh, he's having a challenge ripping and gripping. Now it kind of stopped raining, and then he wound up having a phenomenal game after that and was playing super well. So it was kind of left my mind. And then it was that following year against Cleveland where it was wet and a little muggy and it kind of reappeared. And that's where it kind of like, all right, there might be a little something to this. So I think that's fair. I think that's fair that when the ball's a little damp and a little wet, it seems like he does have some struggles ripping and gripping, but I'm curious to see how one can improve that and maybe what the workaround is with that. I don't know. As you know, I wasn't a quarterback who played in the rain with a wet ball, so I can't tell you like any workarounds or any like for me as a center. I didn't change my grip on the ball. I really didn't do too much of anything differently. Granted, I didn't play in that many rain games, but um, I just I don't know. Uh, I don't know what the improvement would be on that. But I wouldn't be surprised that, anyone who can do it more, get more reps, get more experience, get more comfortability, could improve in that area. But I do think it's a fair critique for sure. Silent says they won't be going off if Brendel is failing at center. Why the refusal to upgrade any mid-round O-line would be a realistic day one upgrade. Well, I do believe that you can, I say it every year, I feel like a broken record. You can find starting interior offensive linemen in the mid rounds like clockwork every single year. Only the top echelon interior offensive linemen go in the first round. But that doesn't mean that you can't find starting offensive linemen in the second, in the third, in the fourth, fifth, sixth, or even seventh. I think Trey Smith, guard for the Chiefs, was a sixth round draft pick. Quinn Miners, my draft crush the year that they drafted Aaron Banks, was a third round draft pick. Zach Tom, my draft crush the year that they drafted Spencer Burford, he was a fourth or fifth round pick. So you can absolutely find offensive linemen later. I'm not concerned about that. I don't think you have to draft a center in the first. I really don't. I don't think you have to draft a guard in the first. And, the 49ers kind of prove my point by drafting Dominic Pooney and him becoming one of the best offensive linemen last year as a rookie. And that's even after hitting a rookie wall and kind of running out of gas at the end of the year. So, I'm not concerned about the offensive line and them potentially finding a mid-round interior offensive lineman. I really think they can. Ben Barch is, again, a guy that I don't think you sleep on at potentially center. I think they have guys that they feel comfortable to compete with Brendel at center, but I do think they should absolutely draft someone in the middle rounds for sure. I absolutely believe that's the case. That's my own personal philosophy. I think I've said it and I'll say it a million times. I would draft offensive linemen until my offensive lineman was the Thanos of offensive lines. But that's probably because I have an offensive line bias. I think that it would be easier to run the football. I think it would be easier to throw the football. I think it would be easier to do play action. I think it would be easier to just operate your offense if you had the best offensive line imaginable. That's just my thought process. I know that the 49ers have been pretty clear that they don't necessarily value drafting offensive linemen super high. They did take McGlinchey that 1 year at 10, I think it was, but I didn't love that pick back then. I didn't love that whole situation. That was the year that they had they actually had what's his name on the roster? Trent Brown. Trent Brown was already on the team playing right tackle, and they traded him, and then they drafted McGlinchey. The reason why they traded Trent Brown is because they needed to pay him. They didn't want to pay him. They went with McGlinchey instead at the top of the draft. And honestly, I didn't think that was like a super talented offensive line class. It was McGlinchey and Colton Miller. Those were the two top offensive linemen in that class. So it wasn't a great O-line class. But I think the move was made to not pay Trent Brown. They felt it could be a swap to go to McGlinchey, who McGlinchey was an upgrade in the run game for sure. He definitely was better in the run game, I would say, than Trent Brown. But Trent Brown was a phenomenal pass blocker. That's one of the reasons why I love Trent Brown. I was going to get a Trent Brown jersey, by the way, I was waiting for them to sign, and I was going to buy a number 77 Trent Brown jersey. I love Trent Brown that much. I was so upset. I didn't do 49ers content at that time. I was really mad when they traded Trent Brown. I'm not gonna lie. He was a 7th round draft pick, for context. So this isn't a super like top heavy O-line class. You got Will Campbell, you got Armand Membo, but you got Gray Zabel, who I really like. Tyler Booker maybe is going to be another first round pick. There really aren't a ton of guys that I think are going to go in the first round on the offensive line. So it's going to push a lot of the other guys back. So honestly, I would say that a key spot to target O-line would be like in the 3rd or 4th round. And if you wanna go for my guy, go get Jackson Slater, maybe even in the 4th. I think he could absolutely compete at center for sure. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they approach this. It really is. Do they go with like an Anthony Belton in the 3rd round at tackle? I would assume Belton might sneak into the 2nd round. I would assume teams are going to be higher on NC State's Anthony Belton more so than the media is. I was really impressed with Anthony Belton at the Senior Bowl. You have the Minnesota tackle, who I'm very fascinated to see how teams view him, because I kind of see him as a guard. I don't know if teams will view him as a tackle. He's an interesting eval because he is a good prospect. Like, he is a good blocker. He's very powerful in the run game. I just see him as a guard in the next level. So I don't know how teams view that. Logan Brown is from Kansas. Logan Brown is Pooney's teammate. I haven't done a lot of work on him. I have a mini first impression of him, and he's okay. He's okay from what I've seen. He's probably a 5th, 6th round kind of a guy. There is this sleeper though. This guy, I took him in the 7th in my last mock draft. But Esa Pole, out of Washington State. What stood out to me was him at the Shrine Bowl. He looks like a tackle. I determine tackles translating to the NFL. Obviously, you have to have the requisite size. So there are outliers. You can be a 6'3" tackle. Just ask Armand Membo. Just ask Rashawn Slater. You can do it. There's always exceptions to the rule. But when you look at Pole, he is a big tackle, and he moves really, really well. He's got good bend in his hips. He keeps a wide base. He's got a good kick step, clean feet. And I'm like, that's a tackle right there. That's not a guy who's going to kick inside. Like, that's a guy who could play tackle. And they have him kind of like in the 7th round. And I'm like, I don't think he's a 7th rounder. Like, just based on his feet and technique and size alone, I'm like, that guy looks like at minimum a 5th round pick. Like, that guy looks like he actually has some starting upside. It's funny. Friend of the channel, Jonathan Feliciano, is actually training him, I guess. I didn't know that, but Feliciano has good things to say about Esa Pole out of Washington State as well. So he's a guy that I got my eye on. But again, it's like you can still rebuild this offensive line without throwing super high draft capital. So the 49ers could still target defensive line or some form of defense with the first 2 picks in the first and second round, or do what I hope they do is trade back maybe 5 to 7 spots, take a defensive lineman or DB, whatever, or a linebacker, whatever. Just take someone on defense. They need someone on defense who's going to play this year, preferably a D tackle or D end. But then you recoup 1 to 2 additional day. I'll say top 100 picks, and that's what I think would be the most ideal thing. Is getting more picks in that top 100, because it feels like there's so many quality players in the top 100 of this draft that I feel like if you're going to have a lot of picks, man, make sure you got a lot of picks in the top 100. So I'm all for a trade back right now, because that's what I want. I want to see them stack picks. I want to see them have the flexibility to go D-line, to go O-line, to go DB, all of that stuff. John says, stop. Last year we did and gave a pick to Kansas City, and that offensive lineman is a stud. I mean, are you sure he's a stud? I don't know if he's a stud, John. I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree with you, and because I was high on Kingsley Suamataia early on in the process. I was, because of the athletic traits, the profile. I love my Tongan and Samoan offensive linemen. So I saw the upside. I saw the potential. But when I finally did my deep dive on Kingsley Suamataia, I backed off. I said, I don't like him. Like, he may have potential eventually, but he is so raw. Technically, as an offensive lineman, I backed off. I said, I don't know about Kingsley, to the point where, like, and I even remember we reacted to it on draft night. It wasn't that I was upset that the 49ers necessarily traded back with Kansas City, because I wanted them to take Kingsley. If they did, I would have been okay with it. But I was more upset at the potential notion that Kingsley could become a starting left tackle for what has been our arch rival. And Kingsley is not better than Colton McKivitz at all, because by that logic, Jalen Moore couldn't be out Colton McKivitz at right tackle, but Jalen Moore just got paid to play over Kingsley Suamataia with the Chiefs. So I'm sorry. I'm poking holes in your theories and your opinions. I don't mean to be that way, but he is not. You could say he is a potential stud. He's not a stud right now. He got benched. He might have got benched multiple times last year. They had to move a guard out to tackle because Kingsley was so unreliable. And again, he could be a player in about 2-3 years, but he's not a player right now, because the reason why I backed off of him was because he was very raw, very technically raw. So I backed off. The other guy that I was kind of hesitant of was Roger Rosengarten. And the reason why I was hesitant of him is because he was inconsistent on film. Now he had, like, I remember, I was talking to Justin about this. Roger Rosengarten had one of the arguably one of the better highlight films or highlight reels for an offensive lineman I've seen in a while. And like, so I was really excited going in to do the deep dive because I was like, oh, his highlight reel is sick. And then I got into the deep dive and it was super inconsistent. It was great play, terrible play, great play, terrible play. I was like, ooh, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, that is a hard place. And that's why evaluation can be hard sometimes, is you do the deep dive to determine, are they going to be consistently good? Or are they just going to flash every once in a while? You have to be consistent in this league. You have to be consistently good. And so for me, when I see inconsistencies on film, I'm like, oh, pause. Now, I think Roger Rosengarten is going to be a better pro. I think he's going to be a guy who can definitely last at tackle and actually be good. I think he proved last year for the Ravens he's going to be good. So he was the guy I originally paused on due to the inconsistencies. He had size, speed. He had the technique. There was just some consistencies on film, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't feel comfortable." If he were able to move towards his better plays and do that consistently, then yeah, he has an opportunity to be a really good player. And so I kind of think that's where he's at right now. Wow, that's crazy. Round 7, Will Oompa Lampkin? Is that a Oompa Loompa reference? And Desmond Pantry Watson? Is that the 460-pound guy? What was that? Was that the dude from Florida, the defensive tackle who like tested today? That's crazy. That's crazy. Will Oompa Lampkin. Wow. That's crazy. Dude, I'm for it, man. Like, if he's available in the 7th, like, you have to take a shot. He reminds, like, he gives me some Waller vibes. Like, he's definitely not going to be a guy who's going to be a great blocker, but he seems like he can be a receiver. So, yeah, I like that. Timu Elijah Arroyo. Hey, man, I see the vision. I think if anyone's been noticing, like, I think I've only drafted one blocking tight end, but now I'm not going to do that anymore because the 49ers paid a blocking tight end. But I've drafted Gadsden. I've drafted Harold Fannin Jr. in a bunch of mocks. I'm kind of leaning towards, like, and that's just my preference. I don't know if the 49ers will do that, but my preference is get a threat as a receiver at tight end, especially that you went out and got Luke Farrell. Go get someone who can catch the ball and make plays. Get playmakers, even if they suck at blocking. Like, I'm fine with that. You signed a blocker in free agency. Now go get a little crazy. Go spend on that new shiny offensive weapon. Go get a playmaker at the tight end position. Go get what's his name? Who was the former Redskins tight end that we signed? I think we had him for like a year. And if he stayed healthy, oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. Thank you, Jordan Reed. I was a big fan of Jordan Reed. Man, if Jordan Reed could stay healthy, if he could stay healthy, but again, it was Reed and Kittle. If you can do that, like Kittle, a receiving tight end, and Luke Farrell, do it. Do it. Take advantage of personnel matchups and personnel groupings. That's what I would love to see that. I would love to see that for sure. So we'll see, man. We'll see what the 49ers do. We'll see if they spend on tight end, a receiving tight end, I should say. I don't feel like there's a really good all-around tight end outside of Tyler Warren. I think everyone has a specific type of, they're either solid blockers or solid receiving threats. Tyler Warren is probably the only dual threat tight end from receiving and blocking standpoint. So we'll see. Hey, I told you guys, like we went into that draft. Pete said you guys were talking a lot about Alec Manor on the mock last night. Finally watched his film pass. We already have him and Juwan Jennings. We were drafting for how the 49ers would draft. So I was like, if that's what we're doing, I think they would take Alec Manor at 75. I wouldn't, but I think they would. You know, I haven't done a deep dive on Alec, so I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, he's definitely a more possession style wide receiver. It doesn't mean those types of wide receivers can't be effective. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. Like, I like a wide receiver who doesn't run very fast. Jack Betch. What was his 40? Oh, not bad. That's actually better than I thought. 4.55. I'll take a 4.55 from Jack. Man, if he got a 4.5 flat, would have made me really happy. But I'll take a 4.55. I'm not too upset at that. Like, his 3 cone is really good. 6.84. Like, that's solid. Short shuttle 2.21. That's decent for a wide receiver. So he might not have the long speed, but he's got great routes. Betch. Oh, Tyler, did you change your profile? You're my name fact checker. Besh. Jack Besh. Thank you. Let's see. I saw someone talking about McCord. McCord is really solid. LaQuint Allen Jr. is a dog. I've never heard of him. One of the better receiving backs in this class. I'm a big fan. All right. Since you're the pronunciation police, I'm going to do it. You've proven to be consistent, and I need you around to save me from looking like an idiot. So I'm going to add you as a moderator. Congratulations, Tyler. We haven't added to the mod squad in quite some time, but I need someone to check my pronunciation at all times. And if you're willing to do that for this channel, you absolutely get a blue check. So congratulations. Welcome to the mod squad. I need someone constantly checking how I pronounce things so I don't sound like a consistent idiot. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the mods as well. Yeah, dude, like I said, I watched both Cam Ward and Kyle McCord last year at Cal. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, hey, Cam Ward could throw it and do all that, but I was like, so can McCord. Like, honestly, I came away a little bit more. I don't know if it was more surprised or more impressed, but I really came away liking Kyle McCord and what he did for Syracuse versus Cal. And I think Cal has a solid defense. I mean, they had 2 legit edge rushers, pretty solid defensive line. Teddy Buchanan's my draft crush. Noel Williams, All-American. They had a pretty good defense, and he was dicing them. And it wasn't, he was just making great throws. Like, and he can spin the ball. Like, he can really throw it. I like it. I like him. I think he's good. I haven't watched Samson. I really need to buckle down and study. I need to shut the door, turn off the social medias, stop posting YouTube videos and Brandon Ayuk trade rumors, and I really need to buckle down and dive into the tape. I need a crunch. I got like a month. I got a month to crunch. I've been saying I need to crunch. It's time to buckle down. It's time to get serious. Oh, crap. What time is it? Oh, I got to go. But appreciate everyone. Smash that like button if you haven't already. All that good stuff. Make sure you go check out the Brock Purdy interview. It's fantastic. And we'll be back tomorrow for Friday. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.